Racist police arrest. Black woman. But her call to Washington sends them into panic. The handcuffs clicked shut with a harsh finality. Maya Carter didn't resist. She didn't flinch. She simply looked up at the two white officers with an expression that held no fear, just quiet calculation. The lead officer, Deputy Ryan Slater, tightened the cuffs with unnecessary force. "You've got quite the attitude for someone pulled over without a license, ma'am," he said, stressing the last word like an insult. They didn't know. Not yet. The stop had happened just minutes ago, on a quiet back road near Arlington, Virginia. Maya had been on her way to a small rural memorial park, dressed in gray joggers and a faded Howard University sweatshirt, her hair in a thick, coiled bun. Her SUV, a dusty 2010 Ford Escape, looked like it belonged to any other middle-class black woman trying to mind her business on a Saturday morning. She hadn't rolled through a stop sign. She hadn't sped. The reason for the stop had been suspicious movement in a high-alert area, an excuse flimsy enough to rip apart in any court. But Slater hadn't cared. His partner, Deputy Clay Maddox, stayed silent during the initial exchange, but the smirk on his face said plenty. "Sir," Maya had said calmly, not moving from her wheel, "I'd like to understand why I'm being pulled over." Slater hadn't answered. He just told her to step out of the vehicle. Now she was sitting in the back of their patrol car, wrists burning, phone confiscated. Except she didn't need her phone. While they balked at each other about paperwork and jurisdiction, Maya shifted slightly in her seat, tilting her wrist inward. Her smartwatch screen flickered to life. No password required. One tap, then a swipe. The screen read, "Secure channel activated." She didn't speak. She didn't need to. 300 miles away in Washington, D.C., a silent notification hit an encrypted line in a restricted Homeland Security terminal. The system flagged a code she hadn't used in over 2 years. But it was still active. It always would be. Back on the side of the road, Slater leaned through the open car door. "You think this is some kind of game, lady? You gonna play coy with us? We've seen your kind before. Playing victim doesn't work when we've got you on dashcam." Maya looked him dead in the eye. "I'm not playing anything." Her voice was calm, neutral. It didn't need to rise. It carried power just the way it was. He scoffed and slammed the door. Inside the cruiser, Maya let herself lean back. Her breathing was steady, her pulse slow. She knew what was coming, and she knew the storm was no longer coming for her, but for them. At the county precinct in Lake Ridge, Virginia, the reception desk was empty when they brought her in. One rookie cop glanced up from a sandwich and paused mid-bite. Something about Maya caught his attention, not her defiance, not her clothes, but the composure. They booked her for obstruction, failure to produce identification, and non-compliance during a traffic stop. All lies. As the paperwork was being filed, Maya sat alone in a holding cell, the fluorescent lights humming above her. A few other detainees passed sideways glances, some amused, some wary. The station's commanding officer, Chief Carl Brenner, reviewed the arrest log from his office. Slater had already called ahead, painting her as an aggressive, possibly dangerous suspect who refused to show credentials. "She got mouthy," Slater had said over the phone. "Could be some sovereign citizen type. We'll see." But Brenner wasn't paying attention to the details until his phone rang. He didn't recognize the number. The line was restricted. His brows drew together as he answered. "Chief Brenner." A pause, then a clipped, emotionless voice on the other end. "This is Section 7 of Homeland Coordination. You have someone in custody. Her name is Maya Carter. You need to release her immediately." "Wait, who the hell is this?" Brenner barked. The voice didn't answer. The line went dead. He blinked, suddenly uneasy. Then another phone rang, his assistant's line, and then another from the county commissioner's office. Something was wrong. He rose and walked out of his office, trying to mask the tension. Meanwhile, back in the holding cell, Maya had finally spoken to someone. A young officer named Jamal Ruiz had come to check on her. He couldn't have been more than 24, still new enough to be shocked by misconduct. "You need anything?" he asked, his tone professional but not cold. Maya studied him a moment. "What's your name, officer?" "Ruiz. Officer Ruiz. You're new here. Just out of academy. Transferred from Richmond. You believe in the badge you wear?" He hesitated. "Yes, ma'am. I do." "Then watch what happens next." He stared, unsure what she meant, but something in her voice, low, confident, unwavering, left him rattled, like she knew more than anyone else in that building. By the time Chief Brenner made his way into the cell block, 2 unmarked black SUVs had pulled into the back parking lot. 4 federal agents in dark suits stepped out. No one had called them. No one knew they were coming. The rookie at the front desk stood up, dropping his sandwich. "Where's Maya Carter?" one of the agents asked. "Who?" the rookie stammered. They didn't repeat themselves. The air in the precinct had changed. The laughter was gone. The smirks faded. In the back, Officer Ruiz looked through the cell bars again and saw Maya standing, arms crossed, calm, almost expectant. Then one of the agents appeared behind him. "You can step aside, officer." Ruiz moved. The door opened. The handcuffs came off. Maya walked out of the cell without a word, nodding slightly to Ruiz as she passed. Outside, Slater and Maddox stood frozen near the booking desk as the agents escorted her out the side exit. The silence was louder than any accusation. "What the hell is going on?" Maddox whispered to Slater. Slater didn't answer. His face was pale. His hands trembled. Inside his office, Chief Brenner's computer screen lit up with a direct message from a secure DOJ channel. "Your department is now under federal review. Effective immediately." He dropped into his chair, sweat beading at his temples. He didn't know who Maya Carter really was, but Washington did, and Washington was watching. The precinct was unusually quiet the morning after Maya Carter walked out. No one spoke about it directly, but it hung in the air like heavy smoke. Slater sat hunched at his desk, typing with shaky fingers, eyes darting to every ringing phone. He hadn't slept. Neither had Maddox, who'd skipped patrol altogether and sat in his car outside the station, chain-smoking in silence. Chief Brenner had called a brief meeting for the morning shift, but everyone knew it was more than that. Something had changed. The hallway chatter was gone. The usually loud banter was replaced by hushed speculation. Maya, meanwhile, had disappeared, not from the world, but from sight, and she had every reason to. Inside a modest townhouse tucked into a quiet block of Northwest D.C., Maya sat cross-legged at her kitchen table, sipping black coffee. Her laptop glowed softly with encrypted messages. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were scanning fast. She was already planning the next step. Across from her sat a woman in her early 50s with silver braids tucked neatly into a bun and a face that looked like it had weathered more storms than she'd ever admit. Her name was Naomi Briggs, a retired federal intelligence liaison, and Maya's godmother. "You're sure you want to keep this quiet?" Naomi asked, folding her arms. "They detained you unlawfully. This could hit every major network in the country by noon." Maya set her cup down. "And then what? The public outrage comes and the system throws them a scapegoat? No, not yet. I want this done right, quietly, surgically." Naomi studied her for a moment, then nodded. "So what's the plan?" Maya leaned forward. "They're not just reckless. They're connected to something bigger. This isn't about a traffic stop. Slater and Maddox weren't acting alone." "You think it's internal?" "I think it's deliberate. Coordinated." Naomi didn't question her. Maya had worked too many high-level investigations for guesses. She'd trained to see patterns others missed. Maya clicked open a secure data folder, revealing facial scans, names, timestamps, all sourced from body cam footage the officers didn't know had been accessed. I tapped into the precinct's cloud server. "Look at this," she said. On the screen were internal chat logs from the sheriff's department. At first glance, it was standard banter, but certain keywords lit up in red: watch list, cleansing, local purge, silent files. Naomi's lips tightened. "That's language straight out of a domestic terror playbook." Maya nodded slowly. "They're trying to scrub people out of the system, quietly, targeting activists, whistleblowers, people like me." There was a beat of silence before Naomi asked, "So what's your next move?" Maya leaned back. "I go back, but not as myself. Not yet." That same afternoon, Deputy Slater received an email with a subject line that turned his blood to ice. Inquiry Notice. Internal Affairs, Federal Liaison. The sender wasn't a name, just an acronym. He clicked it open and read the short message. "You will make yourself available for an interview. 9:00 a.m., Monday. No exceptions." He cursed under his breath and slammed his hand on the desk. This wasn't supposed to happen. He was a 10-year veteran. He knew the system, knew how to bend it. But he'd never seen anyone like Maya Carter. No one had ever walked into a cell and walked out with federal agents waiting at the door, without making a single phone call, unless they didn't need to. 3 days later, a woman named Lena Pierce walked into the Lake Ridge County Office of Records. Mid-30s, curly auburn hair, horn-rimmed glasses, gray business suit. Polite, quiet. She introduced herself as an assistant to the DOJ's Civil Rights Compliance Unit. The clerk didn't question it. She handed Lena access to recent arrest files. Lena smiled, thanked her, and stepped into the backroom scanner vault. She was gone in 20 minutes. What the clerk didn't know, Lena Pierce was Maya Carter. She had worn a custom wig, subtle facial prosthetics, and altered posture, a tactic she had used many times in the field. Back in D.C., Maya decrypted the documents she'd scanned from the vault. They were worse than she thought. Over 40 black and brown individuals, mostly young, working class, had been arrested over the past 6 months on vague charges. Every single one of them had some connection to voter rights groups, non-profit journalism outfits, or police accountability movements. And most had never made it past initial processing. Some had been transferred, others released without record. But one name made Maya freeze. Jasmine Reed, 24, former volunteer for the Coalition for Police Reform. Arrested 4 months ago, listed as released, but no record of her release existed. Her file ended with a single line: hold indefinitely, per L directive. Maya stared at the screen. Naomi's voice broke the silence. "What's L directive?" "I don't know," Maya said, "but I'm going to find out." At the Lake Ridge precinct, Chief Brenner paced his office. The stress was beginning to show. Bags under his eyes, a growing patch of red beneath his collar. He had received another call, this one from the governor's liaison. "We have federal scrutiny on you, Carl. You didn't report a high-risk detainment. That's a felony now." Brenner had tried to argue, but the voice on the other end had cut him off. "Do you know who Maya Carter is?" they asked, and when he hesitated, the line had gone quiet. Then, "You should find out." Later that night, Maya sat alone in her bedroom, staring out the window. She had put herself back on the radar. The safe house wouldn't last long, but that was fine. She didn't need to hide anymore. The game had changed. She wasn't just a target. She was the one pulling strings now, and soon everyone in Lake Ridge would find out just how deep her reach went. The rain fell hard in Lake Ridge that night, washing the streets in a dull gray sheen that reflected the flickering neon signs and rusting street lamps. But inside the precinct, no one noticed the storm. Detective Slater stood frozen in front of the projector screen in the cramped conference room, staring at the paused footage. The timestamp glared at him. 8:06 p.m., the exact moment Maya Carter stepped into the precinct holding cell. The screen showed her sitting, calm and quiet, her face unreadable. "What are we even looking for?" Maddox muttered from the back of the room. "She wasn't carrying a phone, didn't speak to anyone. She didn't even demand a lawyer." Slater's jaw clenched. "She didn't need to. That's what bugs me." Chief Brenner leaned forward, his arms crossed tightly. "She just walked in here, took the whole damn hit, then left like she owned the place. The governor's office called again this morning. There's talk of an oversight hearing. Civil rights violations. We're about to get dragged." "And no one can tell me who this woman really is?" Brenner snapped, pointing at the screen. Maddox looked around, nervous. "She's not in any of the state databases. No criminal record. But we ran her face through Homeland's soft scan system last night. Got flagged." Slater turned sharply. "Flagged by what?" Maddox hesitated, then pulled up a folder on his laptop and turned it to the group. The screen lit up with a classified intelligence dossier. Subject: Maya Carter. Status: Red Clearance Agency. Ties: Department of Homeland Security, DOJ. Current assignment: classified threat level. Do not engage without federal oversight. The room went dead silent. "What the hell?" Brenner finally whispered. "How did someone like that end up in our holding cell?" "She let herself get arrested," Slater said, more to himself than anyone else. "This wasn't random. This was a setup." "For what?" Maddox asked. Slater didn't answer, because he already knew. Across town, Maya stood inside a tiny church on the city's south side. It was barely lit, a quiet sanctuary with a faded mural and crooked pews. But the man she came to meet didn't care about appearances. His name was Reverend Josiah Bennett, a longtime activist and Maya's former mentor during her early years in the field. "You know they're hunting you now," he said softly, pouring her a cup of tea. "I'm counting on it," Maya replied, taking it with a nod. Josiah studied her face, then let out a slow breath. "You always were too brave for your own good." Maya smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm not here for comfort, Josiah. I need access to your safe list. The encrypted one. The people off the grid." Josiah hesitated. "That's only used when someone's life is—" "It already is," she said firmly. "And I think I found someone who disappeared through that system. A girl named Jasmine Reed." Josiah's expression shifted. "Jasmine. She volunteered here last spring. Then one day she just vanished. I assumed she moved." Maya shook her head. She didn't. She was detained. No record of release. No trace in any public registry. Josiah went pale. "They're trying to erase people," Maya said, her voice steady but sharp. "And now I know how." Back at the precinct, Maddox slipped out early and drove out of town. He parked along the shoulder of Route 58, where a black SUV waited under the shadows of the pine trees. Inside sat a man in a black suit, eyes hidden behind tinted glasses. He didn't give a name, just slid a manila folder across the seat. "This is your part," he said. "You want to get rid of the girl. Don't try to silence her, discredit her, make her look unstable." Maddox frowned, opening the folder. Photos, old college files, a sealed juvenile court record, fabricated, if not all true. "You want us to fake a story?" "Not fake," the man replied. "Just repurpose. Make the public think she's a fraud, a liar who manufactures claims to manipulate the system. People will eat it up." "And what do we say if she pushes back?" "You won't have to." Maddox squinted. "Why not?" "Because if she pushes too hard," the man said quietly, "we push harder." That same night, Maya sat in front of her laptop again, watching another set of encrypted files Naomi had just delivered from a federal contact. One folder was labeled L Directive. Inside were dozens of audio recordings, surveillance tapes, internal calls. One clip stood out. A recorded voice, clearly Brenner's, was laughing with someone. "She won't be a problem," Brenner had said. "Girls like that." Loud at first, but they break or disappear. Maya froze. She hadn't expected to hear his voice, but hearing him talk about her like she was a disposable problem did something deeper. She clenched her fists, then pressed play again, just to be sure. The laughter came again, followed by a second voice, Slater's. "She's too smart. We have to move now before DC finds out." Then a third voice, unfamiliar, already running the show behind the curtain. Maya sat back, pulse pounding. She wasn't just dealing with bad cops. She was dealing with a network, a system that had roots in DC, branches in local offices, and the arrogance to believe it could erase whoever it wanted. Not anymore, because now she had names, and soon she'd have proof. And when she was done, no one in that precinct would ever feel untouchable again. The news broke just after sunrise. A leaked memo from the Department of Justice naming several precincts, including Lakeridge PD, as targets of a quiet federal investigation into racial profiling patterns and unlawful detentions. It was splashed across every major network within hours. Maya watched from a booth in a small diner off I-74, a hood pulled low over her face as she stirred her coffee. "She started it," whispered a young server passing by the TV. "That's the woman they arrested, right? The one who made that call." Maya said nothing, but inside, her nerves tightened. The real war hadn't started yet. Her burner phone buzzed under the table. It was Naomi. "We've got a hit," she said. "The audio clip of Brenner you decrypted. It's already gone viral. They're trying to scrub it, but it's everywhere. And get this, Slater requested a private meeting with the mayor's office 30 minutes ago." Maya's fingers tightened around her cup. "They're scrambling." "They're scared," Naomi corrected. "And they should be. Because Maya wasn't just exposing a broken precinct anymore. She was unmasking a system designed to bury people like her, and Jasmine, and anyone who spoke up." She left a tip on the table and slipped out through the back door. At the Lakeridge mayor's office, chaos buzzed like a nest of hornets. Mayor Evelyn Pierce, a once unshakable moderate who'd built her political brand on balanced law and order, now found herself cornered by scandal. She glared across the table at Slater and Brenner, both visibly rattled. "You two lied to me," she hissed. "You told me she was just a troublemaker, a protester with a chip on her shoulder." "She came in quietly," Slater shot back. "Didn't give a name, didn't demand rights, we didn't know who she was." "Then why does it sound like you were joking about breaking her on a federal wiretap?" Mayor Pierce snapped. Brenner leaned in, trying to steady his voice. "Look, we were dealing with an unknown threat. That woman walked in here like she owned the place. It felt like a setup." "She didn't walk in with a gun," the mayor replied coldly. "She walked in with the law on her side, and you gave her the ammunition she needed." Slater shifted in his seat. "If this goes to a full hearing, we all burn." Mayor Pierce stood, calm but steely. "Then maybe you deserve it." Elsewhere, Maya met with Jasmine's older brother, Marcus Reed, in a vacant warehouse turned underground legal aid center. Marcus had spent months searching for his sister, believing she'd been deported or trafficked, or worse. Now, hearing Maya confirm she'd been taken and erased, his face twisted between rage and heartbreak. "They kept her in a private facility?" he asked. "Not a facility," Maya said, sliding over a cell. "A subcontracted holding site in collaboration with a private security group. Everlock." Marcus flipped the file open. The pages showed payment logs, GPS logs, and redacted communications until Naomi's team had unredacted them. "This is what they've been doing with state budgets? Funding black sites for non-criminals?" Maya nodded. "People of color, activists, even some journalists. They're silencing dissent without using bullets." Marcus's hands trembled as he gripped the folder. "So what now? We expose them?" "No," Maya replied. "We crash them." Back at the precinct, Officer Maddox sat in the briefing room, staring at his phone. Social media was a dumpster fire. Everyone had an opinion. Protesters had already gathered outside the station. But it wasn't the mob outside that made his gut turn. It was the knock at the back door. He opened it to find the same suited man from the black SUV. "New instructions," the man said. "She's planning something. You and Slater need to get ahead of it." "Like how?" The man pulled a flash drive from his coat. "You're going to find this in her apartment. Drug records, paid bribes, anything that makes her look dirty." Maddox recoiled. "You want me to plant fake evidence?" "I want you to survive," the man said sharply. "Because if she wins, you'll be the headline. Not Slater. Not Brenner. You." The threat hung in the air like smoke. That night, Maya drove out to a quiet field at the edge of town. Naomi was already there, laptop open, screen glowing in the darkness. "You sure you want to release it all tonight?" Naomi asked. "Once it's out, there's no turning back." Maya looked up at the stars. "This isn't about me anymore," she said. "They tried to erase me, but what they didn't count on was the fact that I wasn't alone." She handed Naomi a drive labeled The Vault. Inside were months of documentation, surveillance footage, confidential memos, affidavits from whistleblowers, and names. Names of those who'd vanished, names of those who had buried them. "Drop it," Maya said. Naomi hit enter, and within seconds, the world changed. Screens across the country began flashing red. News anchors interrupted broadcasts. Hashtags exploded. The entire Lakeridge system, its corruption, its backdoor funding, its illegal detentions, was laid bare for all to see. And in the eye of the storm stood Maya Carter, no longer the anonymous woman in a holding cell, but the voice of a reckoning. The knock on the hotel room door came at 2:13 a.m. Maya had just finished uploading the last of the encrypted documents to Naomi when the sound snapped her alert. She paused, hand hovering over her laptop, heart rate spiking. A second knock, harder this time. She moved cautiously to the door and peered through the peephole. It was Agent Desmond Shaw, the man from Washington. She unlatched the lock, cracked the door open. "You're early," she said quietly. He stepped inside with a nod, removing his jacket, eyes scanning the dim room. "You said you had evidence. I didn't expect a digital war thing." Maya handed him a flash drive. "There's more, but that's the one with the direct ties between Lakeridge PD, the Everlock Group, and 2 sitting state senators." Desmond turned it over in his hand, visibly impressed. "You're not playing checkers." "No," she said. "I'm playing for keeps." Desmond took a breath. "The Justice Department wants this to go away quietly. You've made that impossible." That was the point. He looked at her, really looked this time. "You realize what you've started can't be walked back. This isn't about you or Lakeridge anymore. This is going to hit federal nerves. Then they should have thought of that before they buried my name in a file marked Unclassified Risk." Desmond's jaw clenched. "There's already chatter in Washington. They're preparing a controlled leak. But you just bypassed every gate." "Good." He gave her a long, hard look. "You need to go underground." "I'm not running." "You're not running," he said slowly, "because you've already set the fuse, and you want to watch it burn." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Because Maya Carter had made a choice. She was done hiding, done obeying. Now, she was about to drag every last one of them into the light. At Lakeridge PD, the fallout was immediate and brutal. Officer Maddox was called into Slater's office, where the captain stood pale-faced, gripping a bottle of antacids. Across the desk, Chief Brenner slammed down a printed screenshot of Maya's leaked file drop. It was everywhere. Twitter, Reddit, even major outlets were running with it now. "You let this happen," Brenner roared. "You let her walk out of here." Slater's voice was tight. "I thought she was bluffing. No lawyer, no backup, just a burner phone and attitude." "She was an analyst for Homeland Security," Maddox muttered. "She knew what she was doing." "She still is," Brenner growled. "The memo Naomi uncovered, it says Maya Carter's clearance was never revoked. You idiots tried to detain an active federal contractor." The room went silent. Slater slowly sat down. "That's why DC is circling," Maddox whispered. "They're not circling," Brenner said. "They're preparing to pounce." Meanwhile, Naomi sat in a tech co-op workspace, 5 monitors glowing with data feeds. She'd just intercepted an unlisted communication channel between Lake Ridge PD and Everlock. A new operation. Not surveillance. Elimination. Her fingers flew over the keyboard as she traced IP logs, flagging one entry out of Memphis. Unusual. It linked to a private contractor specializing in asset termination. "Come on," she muttered. "Don't tell me you're going there." But they were. And Maya was their asset. She grabbed her phone and called Marcus Reed. "She's not safe," Naomi said. "You need to move her, now." Marcus didn't hesitate. "Where?" "There's a safe house in Baldwin Hills. Only 3 people know it. You're one." "I'm on it." Maya had just stepped out of a back alley cafe when 2 unmarked SUVs turned the corner fast. Too fast. She dropped her cup and sprinted for the alley, heart pounding. Tires screeched behind her. Men in tactical gear poured out. She ducked behind dumpsters, leapt a chain-link fence, and ran until her lungs ached. An engine revved behind her. Then headlights. She turned just in time to see Marcus's Jeep barrel into the alley. "Get in!" She dove into the passenger seat as Marcus hit the gas. "Nice timing," she gasped. "I figured you'd need a dramatic exit," he said grimly. They sped off into the night, Maya's hands trembling from adrenaline, from rage. She glanced back at the vehicles disappearing behind them. This wasn't just about Jasmine anymore. This was war. Later that night, at the Baldwin Hills safe house, Maya sat in silence as Naomi connected another secure call. Agent Desmond appeared on screen, exhausted but focused. "You made national news," he said. "Good. You're a trending hashtag. Better." Desmond looked at her seriously. "They've deployed a task force, not to protect you, to control you." Maya leaned in. "Then you need to decide which side you're on." Desmond said nothing for a long time. Then he nodded. "You'll have protection, but you're going to need to move fast, because after tonight, they're going to spin this as a national security breach." "I don't care what they call it," she said. "I'm calling it what it is. Justice." And as the call ended, Maya turned back to Naomi. "Tomorrow," she said, "we go public. Everything." Naomi blinked. "All of it?" "All of it. The cover-ups, the names, the files, because the only way out was through. And Maya Carter was ready to walk through fire to make sure no one ever disappeared again. It was raining in D.C. when Maya stepped onto the stage at the Whitley Civic Auditorium. Cameras from 3 national news networks zoomed in as she approached the podium. Behind her, an enormous screen displayed a single image, her Homeland Security badge, fully active, time-stamped, and valid. No one breathed. Not the crowd of local activists in the back. Not the former whistleblowers seated beside her. Not even the federal agents watching from unmarked vans nearby. Maya gripped the podium. "My name is Maya Carter. I am a federal intelligence analyst specializing in counter-corruption oversight. Until this week, you didn't know my name. That was intentional." She paused. Eyes scanned her, searching for weakness. She gave them none. "I embedded myself in Lake Ridge, California, under the guise of a civilian to investigate multiple complaints involving civil rights violations and misappropriated funds linked to local law enforcement. What I uncovered wasn't just misconduct. It was an entire system designed to silence black voices and profit from their pain." Flashbulbs exploded. Whispers turned into a low roar, but she wasn't done. "They arrested me without cause. They deleted records, falsified reports, and ignored procedure. Why? Because I was black. Because they thought no one would listen. But I wasn't just another woman they could silence. I was the one sent to expose them." From the wings, Naomi watched, her hands gripping the railing. In a private room backstage, Agent Desmond Shaw stood beside a secure laptop. On the screen were live feeds from 4 states, senators, contractors, and police chiefs now facing public scrutiny. Whistleblower protections had been triggered. Internal Affairs was opening federal investigations in 8 jurisdictions. "What the hell did she start?" one agent asked. Desmond smiled faintly. "A reckoning." Back on stage, Maya continued. "The officers who dragged me into that jail, they were being paid off by a private surveillance firm known as Everlock. The same firm that had contracts with state prisons, private ICE detention centers, and dozens of police departments. They weren't protecting communities. They were farming bodies for profit." Someone in the crowd gasped. Maya looked directly into the camera. "And I have the receipts." The room erupted. Journalists leapt from their chairs. Naomi turned to Desmond, who nodded once and opened a file folder marked Operation Coronet. He whispered, "It's time." In Lakeridge, chaos unfolded within minutes of the broadcast. Captain Slater was on the phone, pacing wildly in his office. "No, sir, we didn't know her identity," he snapped into the receiver. "She used a fake last name. No, we didn't know she was federal." His hand trembled as he listened. "But how could she have clearance? She was in jail." A pause. Slater's face drained, then he slowly sat down. Across town, Chief Brenner's home was swarmed by local reporters. One of them shoved a mic toward him as he stepped outside. "Chief, is it true you ordered the unlawful detention of a federal operative?" "No comment," he barked, shoving past them. "Did you authorize payments from Everlock to department officers?" "I said no comment." He slammed the door shut behind him. Inside, his wife stared at him. "What did you do, Curtis?" But he had no answer. That night, Naomi and Maya huddled in the safe house, every screen glowing. Hashtags trended globally. Hashtag Maya Carter was the #1 phrase on every major platform. Then, a knock. It was Desmond. He entered, dropped a folder on the table. "You have a decision to make," he said. "What is it?" He sat down, weary. "The White House wants to offer you a deal. Quiet resignation, full immunity. In exchange, you shut it down now. No more releases." Naomi stiffened. Maya didn't blink. "No." Desmond nodded slowly, unsurprised. "I told them you'd say that." She reached across the table. "Then let's finish it." Naomi slid a USB drive across. "This is everything," she said. "Encrypted copies, server backups, eyewitness logs, campaign contributions. All roads lead to people who thought they were untouchable." Desmond took the drive. "By the time this hits the Federal Registry," Maya said, "they'll be out of moves." He looked at her with a mix of awe and concern. "You know you've made enemies in high places?" She met his gaze. "Good. Let them know I'm not afraid." Outside, the night deepened, but inside that room, something had shifted irreversibly. The hunted had become the hunter. The victim was now the voice of a movement. And Maya Carter was just getting started. It began with silence. Not the kind that fills a room when a storm has passed, but the brittle, foreboding kind, the one that settles right before a building crumbles. Maya Carter stood in the hall outside the Congressional Oversight Committee room, flanked by Naomi and 2 federal marshals. The hum of the Capitol was just outside, but here everything felt suspended. All morning, the news had exploded with coverage of her exposé. Networks were replaying her speech on loop. Pundits debated whether she was a hero or a ticking time bomb. Inside, powerful men were waiting. "Maya," Naomi whispered, "you sure you're ready for this?" Maya didn't take her eyes off the heavy wooden door. "I've been ready my whole life." The doors opened. Reporters snapped to attention. Flashbulbs popped. She stepped in. A long mahogany table stretched down the center of the room. Senators and Congress members sat stiffly in their leather chairs, folders open, faces unreadable. At the far end, Chairman Douglas Baines cleared his throat. "Ms. Carter," he said, tapping his pen on the desk, "we appreciate your presence today. You understand you're here under subpoena, correct?" Maya met his stare. "I'm here because this country needs answers." A few murmurs rippled through the room. Chairman Baines raised an eyebrow. "Then let's begin." For the next hour, Maya laid it out. The contracts between local law enforcement and Everlock, the falsified arrest logs, the secret off-book jail facilities, the video footage of abuse, the encrypted messages between officers, the bribes, the bonuses, the silence. "You're saying the system was rigged?" asked Rep. Tim Corbin, a skeptical man from Texas. "No," Maya said calmly. "I'm saying it was designed that way from the start." Then came the twist. Chairman Baines leaned forward. "Ms. Carter, are you aware there's a motion being introduced today to investigate your conduct?" The room tensed. "I'm sorry," Maya replied, voice low. "We've received allegations that your undercover operation overstepped legal boundaries," Baines continued, "that you engaged in surveillance without proper judicial authorization, that your methods may have endangered national security." Gasps. Naomi's jaw dropped. Maya blinked once. "They're trying to flip the story," Naomi hissed under her breath. "They're going after you." Maya exhaled slowly. Then she reached into her folder and pulled out a document. She passed it to the aide, who brought it to the chairman. "What is this?" he asked. "An executive memo," Maya said, "signed by the Deputy Director of Homeland Security, authorizing my full investigative authority, including warrantless embedded surveillance, under Title 50, Section 3093. Baines stared at the page, his face tightened. "And here," Maya said, holding up a USB drive, "is a recording. Taken 2 weeks ago. It's a call between your office and Everlock's CEO, arranging campaign contributions in exchange for maintaining local security contracts." The room erupted. Senators rose to their feet. The chairwoman of the Ethics Committee stood and demanded the session be paused. But Maya didn't stop. She turned to the crowd of reporters behind the glass wall. "You want to know what I risked to be here? I put myself behind bars. I walked through the fire, not just to expose the truth, but to remind this country that no one is above the law." Suddenly, doors opened at the back of the room. 2 men in suits stepped in, flashing credentials. "Federal Bureau of Investigation," one announced. "We have a warrant for the immediate seizure of all communications from Chairman Baines's office." The room went dead silent. Baines stuttered, standing halfway. "This is outrageous. Sit down," one agent ordered. Naomi grabbed Maya's hand under the table. Maya didn't smile, but she didn't need to, because this wasn't just her fight anymore. It had become a movement. As Baines was escorted out, cameras turned back to Maya. She stood tall, unshaken as the floodlights bore down. And outside the Capitol, crowds were gathering, holding signs, chanting her name, demanding justice. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The sky above Washington, D.C. glowed a muted gray as the nation held its breath. Outside the courthouse, hundreds had gathered. Some clutched handmade signs reading "Justice for All" and "We Stand with Maya." Others live-streamed the moment, their phones raised high, capturing history as it unfolded. Inside, the air buzzed with tension. Maya Carter sat in the witness stand once again, her back straight, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The final session of the federal inquiry had arrived, and today wasn't just about what had been done to her. It was about what came next. The courtroom was packed. Naomi sat in the front row beside Maya's mother, who hadn't spoken much since she arrived from Atlanta. But her eyes, those sharp, weathered eyes, never left her daughter. Across the aisle, former police chief Ray Hollins, his uniform traded for a suit that now hung awkwardly on his frame, waited for judgment. He was joined by two officers from the Lincoln Heights PD, Martin Griggs and Terry Knox. Once bold and brash, now silent and pale, Judge Margaret Stenson, known for her no-nonsense demeanor, addressed the room. This court has reviewed testimony, video evidence, financial records, internal communications, and sworn affidavits. What we have seen is a grotesque misuse of power, a pattern of racial profiling, systemic abuse, and targeted suppression of civil rights. The room shifted with murmurs. Judge Stenson continued, "But perhaps what is most disturbing is how confidently these actions were carried out, under the assumption that no one would notice, and even if they did, that nothing would change." She turned to Maya. And yet, someone did notice. Someone stood up. For the first time, Maya looked surprised. Then came the twist. Judge Stenson picked up a sealed envelope and opened it. "This morning we received notice from the Department of Justice. Effective immediately, a federal oversight committee will be assigned to restructure and monitor all law enforcement operations in Lincoln Heights. Everlock Security Services has been terminated from all government contracts." A wave of gasps broke across the room. Ray Hollins's head dropped. Judge Stenson's eyes were sharp. "Chief Hollins, Officers Griggs and Knox, you are hereby stripped of your badges, pending full criminal prosecution under federal civil rights statutes. The department will be releasing a formal apology." Naomi clapped, once. It rippled into thunderous applause from the gallery, but Maya didn't cry. She didn't celebrate. Not yet. After court adjourned, she stepped outside to face the crowd. Dozens of microphones were shoved toward her, but she raised her hand gently. "Before I say anything else," she began, "this victory isn't mine alone." Cameras clicked. Reporters leaned in. This is for every voice that was ignored. Every person stopped for the color of their skin. Every kid who was told to be quiet, to not make trouble, to just survive. Today, I didn't win. We did. A pause. Her voice softened. "And while I might have had the power to expose this system, we all have the power to demand change. It doesn't take a badge or a title or a call to Washington. It takes people who refuse to stay silent." A cheer rose from the crowd. Maya stepped back, letting the noise wash over her. Her mother wrapped an arm around her shoulder. Naomi squeezed her hand. But as they walked away, Maya spotted a young girl standing near the edge of the sidewalk. She had dark braids and wide eyes. She clutched a small sign that read, "One day, I'll be her." Maya knelt in front of her and smiled. "Don't wait for one day," she said softly. "Start now." The girl's eyes lit up, and Maya stood taller than ever before. Because in the end, this story wasn't just about a woman who made a phone call that changed everything. It was about a country finally picking up the phone. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We've got more stories that shine a light on truth, courage, and justice. Support the channel so we can keep telling what matters.